Um, okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil, Part 2 in one day. I'm ready to talk with you guys one more time before the day comes to an end. Tonight's going to be a little different. I'm going to do my best not to bring up a lot of things that will get us distracted and sidetracked and things like that. And instead, we're going to be talking about some very important things. All right. I want to bring this video up and bring these things up tonight because we have, as of today, we have went up 4,000 followers on this channel in the matter of a week and a half, 2 weeks, which is crazy to me. And that means that there's a lot of people that need to catch up on some things. Some of the people that are new here, I've noticed in comments, are they're catching up. However, they're a little overwhelmed by some of the things, and I'm so sorry about that. Imagine being here through all of it, like some of these people right here down below. Matter of fact, hey, Miss M, speaking of you, some of these people have been here through. I got some of my supper left in my tea. Some of these people have been here for a long time and really watched a lot of changing take place. And today's video is more along the lines for a lot of you new folks. I have been putting out a lot of this information that you've seen on my page here for about 3 years now. And in those 3 years, we've come across some things that are really quite alarming. And a lot of things that a lot of other people just don't want to talk about or don't want to bring up or don't even want to say anything about. And one of those things being fleeing Babylon the Great, as it says, come out of her, my people, so you do not take part in her sins, and you do not take part in her plagues, along with the video I made on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen that or not. I brought up over 20 passages in the Bible that tell you to literally flee. I tell you what to do when you flee, and also tell you why you flee Babylon before winter and before a Sabbath on the winter, when the abomination of desolation is being set up. And if you want to be specific, it's called the abomination that causes desolation. And another thing that a lot of channels are not putting together is if you read Daniel about the abomination that causes desolation being set up, it says they will set it up for a week. However, the Most High cuts it short halfway through the week, because it's the setting up of the abomination that causes the desolation. It says, as you see it being set up, as you see the abomination of desolation being set up, flee to the mountains, etc., etc. Daniel says that the abomination desolation, which is the man-made sacrifice being set up, okay? It says when that's being set up, it says the Most High will cut that short on the halfway through the week, and will turn its head and remember Babylon the Great. And he will make Babylon the Great desolate in the middle of that sacrifice. And if you know and been following along with the Word of God and also this channel, you know that during the winter time, there are no feasts during the winter season. Okay? There's trumpets, there's tabernacles, and then there's a long pause all the way through till Passover. Okay? And what's important is what takes place at Passover. That's when the Passover lamb and all them things get sacrificed. They set up those things during the winter time. That's why the Word of God says this: pray that your flight, which is an exile, a leaving, pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath, nor in the winter. For in that day a tribulation will come over the land that has not been since the beginning of that great nation. And we talked about it. Daniel, the short book of Daniel that's added at the end, the short book that terrified him to death, That's the most terrifying moment in history, and it only exists in the short season after the 1,000-year reign when the world's destroyed. It's the same short scroll that's presented to John in Revelation that terrified him to death, and he was told to swallow that scroll, prophesy these things again at the end of the world. Same thing they told Daniel. Daniel, seal this book up. I know it's scary. I know it's terrifying. Seal it up. Shut it up. That angel had to give him courage to stand back on his feet because it made him drop in fear. He said, stand up, Daniel, seal this book because it'll need to be prophesied at the end of the world, is what he told Daniel. Okay? And with that being said, okay, that's it. Okay, you didn't miss anything. Let me tell you guys, if that happens, if it pauses out and I freeze, it lets me know when that happens. My screen also freezes and goes black, okay? Don't mean you have to drop off the video. Learn to have some patience, okay? I sit and I wait for it to readjust itself and I come back in. Facebook has been doing this to me for a long time. I know how to deal with that situation, okay? It wants me to click finish and I don't. I want you guys to just be patient. Charlene, that'll be covered at the end. Tonight's also one of those videos. I encourage you to hold your questions until the end and see if they'll be answered in the video. I've told you guys many times, part of the reason why I'm able to think the way I think, just constantly like a hamster running around in my head, literally on a spinning wheel, okay, is because I have extreme ADHD, which is okay, because the Most High takes what the enemy means for evil and turns it for good. My ADHD causes me to literally get so sidetracked by comments and questions because I'm one of those that loves to teach, loves to answer questions, and they constantly pop up in my face while I'm trying to teach something else, okay? I'm going to ask you guys, please, and I'm not trying to be rude, please just wait till the end and see if your question will be answered in the video, especially if your question has something to do entirely with the title of the video. Okay, there's no way I can hide the comments. For a while there, Facebook was hiding the comments from me, and it was wonderful. I was able to do a whole video without even seeing anything in front of my face, but I can't help it. So like I said, hold off, wait till the end of the video, and I'm saying this with love, and just be patient, okay? All right. Now I'm already sidetracked. Listen, okay? The abomination of desolation will be set up. Chris, man, I didn't even know you had a Facebook. See ADHD there. Tell your family and kids I said hello. It's good to see you up here, Mr. Chris and Rachel and kids. But anyway, I'm going to keep going here. The abomination that causes desolation. It says in Daniel, if people would read the whole chapter instead of one little clip of things like people do, you'll notice it's the week of it, okay? And you know what a week really is also. Okay, it says that they'll be setting that abomination that causes desolation up, but he will cut it short halfway through the week, and he will turn his face to Babylon and remember Babylon, and he goes, and there's where the desolation comes from. Mystery Babylon the Great is left desolate, without life, destroyed. Okay, well, I want you guys to understand, okay? There was originally 5 heifers that had to come over here, the true promised land. If Israel oversees the house of Israel, the synagogue of Satan, the house of Rothschild, that was created only 78 years ago as the promised land of milk and honey and animals, tell me why they had to get their red heifers from Texas, USA. Think hard about that. It is what it is, okay? Anyway, they had to get it from over there here to send to there. We supply the sacrifice in the true land of milk and honey. As I've proven on many live streams that this is the old/new world reset, flipping of the maps that has to take place at the short season when they attempt to change things. As it says, they change names, they change dates, they change times, they change everything, including the maps. Okay? Well, there was 5 that were sent over there. 3 have been disqualified. 2 remain. They also already did their practice sacrifice only a month ago. That should ring some bells in your head like, whoa, 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 something's going on here. They've also already made the ramps. The ramps have been made for the sacrifice. They've made the pit. The pit has been made. It's being set up. Okay? They have also already set up parameters at this place. The stonemasons, you need to know this. the stonemasons, which are what Freemasons truly are, their ultimate goal is stonemasonry, okay? They have been assembling parts for this for hundreds of years. How do I know? Well, after my son died, my grandpa died, and I went through my grandpa's books, and it turns out he wasn't just a Freemason, but he had a very high Blue Lodge Bible. There's a big difference in those Bibles. This one had everything in it, and this one also had the plans for Solomon's temples, where the parts are located, where the parts are from, also what every single letter stands for in Freemasonry, and also the whole purpose of setting up this temple in these days. It's what started this whole journey of mind-blowing truths that went on for a long time, okay? Well, they've already had the parts, they've gotten it, getting it ready, and the thing is those heifers, they only have a 3-year window to be sacrificed. Those 2 that remain are approaching. April 1st is the end of that 3 years. If they don't sacrifice them before Passover of this coming year, they have to start everything over. And riddle me this, you really think that they're going to start over after 3 years of preparation? Absolutely not. Think hard, okay? I'm not saying that to be rude or elevate myself or anything like that. I'm just telling you guys, this is simple stuff. The word is so simple that truly, if you just sit back and stop having a pastor have to teach you everything and separate yourself and humble yourself and ask him for guidance and try and read these things yourself, they'll make sense to you. Don't just read a verse, read chapters and then read them again. Okay? Daniel says that the abomination that causes desolation will be set up. Okay? And it takes a whole week. But the week will be cut short, and the face will be turned back to Babylon, and Babylon will be remembered and left in desolation. We've supplied the sacrifice, okay? Now, why does that matter? Well, you remember, Mystery Babylon the Great is up in smoke and ash in only an hour. We also know during the short season, Satan and the 10 kings of old are given power for only an hour. The short season is the short space, the short horn, the short scroll, the short hour, the mystery scroll, the mystery horn, the mystery time, the mystery Babylon the Great's recovered head wound that recovered and popped back up for a short season at the end of the world for a terrifying destruction. Okay? All right. Anyway, let's just keep on going. I really don't want people to get sidetracked by things that you were told by your pastors. Okay, sorry I'm drunk. That may explain it. Okay, let's keep going. Look, I want you to know this. In the short season, it says word for word, be ye of sober mind and vigilant. I quit smoking weed, something I did almost my whole life when I turned my life around. I quit drinking all that mess my whole life, stopped it. And here I am now, able to think straight, able to teach my family the right things, able to lead in the right direction, clear and sober-minded and sober thoughts. The wine and alcohol you're drinking today is not the wine and alcohol of the Bible. You're drinking alcohol, which is a spirit god in these world that takes it and 40 proofs it and 50 proofs it and 60 proofs it. Wine in a wine press is only like 8% alcohol. And it's, as Timothy said, to be drinking for a certain purpose, not to get slandered drunk. And I'm saying this for correction. The word's for that reason. I'm using nothing but the word of God. If you're burning strange fire in these days, you need to know that Mystery Babylon the Great, it talks about them burning the incense of Babylon. You need to know that the marijuana and weed of today is not the marijuana and the weed of the 70s. It's a big difference in 5 and 10% and 40 and 80 and 90% of Mary, John, marijuana, and Cain, abyss. The strange fire that nothing new under the sun, Aaron's sons burned before the altar of God and had fire come out and consume them. There's a big difference in herb-bearing seeds being used for something, a good reason, and being used for the wrong purpose. That's like saying, oh, it's an herb-bearing seed. Well, you know what else is an herb-bearing seed? A seed-bearing herb? There's a lot that are poisonous. Are you going to eat them just because it's an herb-bearing seed? And everybody's like, well, in the Bible it says they use cannabis oil. Yeah, they use cannabis oil for anointing, not for smoking. So I quit. I don't take part in the strange fire of Babylon the Great, the Cain abyss. Straighten up. I encourage you to. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you, you better. And I'm saying for somebody that did that stuff every day, all day long, for a long, long time, it was hard. But repentance is hard. It's not easy. And that's part of this whole thing right here. Look, I'm saying this as a testimony. Do you know how hard it is? See, everybody's like, weed's not addictive. Yeah, it is. I'm telling you as a personal testimony. Yes, it is. Try and quit. It's hard. But I tell you this, what are you going to do when the grid shuts down and you're out in the middle of the woods? Miss Robin, I'm going to tell you to rewatch this video from the beginning. What are you going to do when you have to go in exile and you're craving weed the whole time? Or you're craving that bottle one more time? It's going to make it way harder on you. Think hard, guys. Repent of those things. Yes, it's hard, and yes, it sucks. That's why it's a trap. It's an abyssal trap, Cain abyss. So listen to me, okay? Part of the whole exile thing going on in these days is there was a point where we were at a time of ignorance, as the Most High said. It says the time of ignorance the Most High overlooked. He winked at, okay? But now, the pouring out of knowledge and the Spirit and all of those things that happens at the end. But now, the time of ignorance is behind us. He's calling everyone everywhere to repent. And it also says those that will listen and heed the warning and heed the call. It says those, it tells you to eat clean. I wonder why. It also tells you to keep His commandments. I wonder why. Thinking clearly. Not polluting yourself. Okay? And it says those people will call on His name and remember His name. It says those people will remember His name. Those who will call out for, and He will be there. He will listen. That's what the Word says. Be sober-minded. Be prepared. Be ready. So I bring that up because of this. Miss, I can't even remember your name now, that just came up here and said there's nowhere safe to go. That's the whole point of this video. Let me tell you something. I'm not exiling Babylon to go somewhere safe. I'm not exiling Babylon to save my life. I'm not looking for somewhere safe to go. Never has that came out of my mouth. Everybody says this. They're like, well, where do we go that's safe? Well, Africa's got this happening with their people, and Mexico has these cartels, and India comes after women and children. Yeah, I know. That's why the gospel hasn't really reached them. You're not leaving Babylon to save your life. You're leaving Babylon to be a light in darkness. I want to go to the most dangerous places. Do you know why? Because nobody else will. I want to go to those places where people are suffering and struggling, because who am I? Stop looking for safe places to go, and go ye therefore to all nations. Teaching, baptizing, remembering who you are. Joseph, I'm going to have to block you off of here, bud, and I'm so sorry. Okay, there it goes. I want to say this one more time so it's clear. He don't call you out of Babylon to go somewhere safe and save your life. He calls you out of Babylon to be a worker during the harvest. And you guys, so many of you guys make it clear that during the harvest, man, the harvest truly will be plentiful. But the workers really will be few. If you're looking for somewhere safe to go, you might as well just sit here in Babylon and be comfortable. I'm not going into Mexico to save my life. I'm going to message to people that are in the middle of cartels and hard situations and can't even pick up a piece of toilet paper, much less a Bible. I'm going to India because I know what it's like there. I've been there, where they threaten your life every day. If you're looking for somewhere safe to go, those who try to save their life will lose it. But those who lay down their life for another shall find it. It disappoints me. And it breaks my heart hearing so many people saying, but where can we go that's safe? Nowhere's safe. We're going to die anyway. Yeah, we're all appointed to die once. Would you not rather die as a voice doing what you're told, or be as a dog that's turned over on your back ready to get pounded? What can we do if we're unable to leave? I think I've addressed this one 1,000 times. I want you to dig deep about what your reason of why you're unable to leave is, and put yourself in this suit, because look, we're in a whole different situation now. In Egypt, those people were slaves, beat daily, going through all kinds of hell. Old, young, poor, struggling, feeble. Some of them were probably missing legs and arms. Some of them probably couldn't even walk. And yet when the time came to exile, do you know what they did without excuse, because they witnessed what the Father can do? They left without question. If you can go to a grocery store, you can go somewhere else. If you can make it to a hospital and let Big Pharma inject you with some things, you can make it somewhere else. If you can make it to that football game or that soccer game or that baseball game, sit in those bleachers, you can make it somewhere else. But if you're trying to save your life, sit still. I'm going to share with you guys a story tonight that I've shared with some of the people on the page before, especially some that I've met in person, and why I do what I do, and why I say what I say. See, I hate America itself as a nation, not the people, but I hate what we've become. Self-entitled, comfortable, ungrateful, needy. And yet you don't even know what it truly means to struggle. Please, man, you guys, and you're constant trying to get me to do other things when I'm already teaching. Listen. You know, 3 years I put my life into a church building, preaching every Sunday morning, preaching every Sunday night, preaching every Wednesday night, preaching every holiday, preaching every little gathering, preaching countless revivals, preaching at colleges, preaching at schools, preaching at sunrise services, preaching anywhere I could, including my own church. For 3 years, I gave it everything I had. But I found out I had to put it away when I found out that it was being ran by Freemasons. Literally. I put everything I had into college as a Dean's List student just to find out it was being ran by Zionists and Freemasons. Dean's List student. I got ordained because I thought it was the right thing to do. This is what I was told. 3 years of pouring into that place just to leave it behind. And it broke me. I went from preaching every day and any time I could to having this stillness for a week after that killed me, haunted me, and broke me. The next week I met this man. You'll hear me talk about him all the time. John Paul. I remember it was 2 weeks after I lost my place in the church that I finally made up my mind what I was going to do. Because just before then, Father put somebody in my life only 2 months before that I met online. And he had just sent me a message saying, "Hey brother, how are you? I could really use your help." And, you know, you get those messages from people overseas all the time. All the time. They're like, "Please help," and they'll hold up an empty plate. "Please help," and you'll see all these children with nothing. You know, people ignore it all the time. But I was at the peak of my everything during that point. And I said, "All right, hey man, what's up?" And that first time I ever messaged him, he said, can I call you?" And I said, "Sure. Just one time." Next thing you know, he gets on the video call with me, and we talk for 2 hours straight. So much, in fact, that the next day he called me again and had about 20-some kids in the background and put me on a loudspeaker on the phone and had me teach and preach to those little children through a phone. And I loved it. So much, in fact, that I told the elders and deacons of the church, and I told the youth group in the church, I was like, "I've met this guy online and these kids, and it's so fantastic." They could have cared less, the elders and deacons, but the kids loved it. So much, in fact, and I'm sure Miss Chastity Triaga is going to watch this later, because she's a big part of it, and our kids. So much, in fact, that those kids, they found out that I wanted to go to India so bad that they went and they raised so much money with their pocket change and their piggy banks and whatever they could beg out of their mom and dads. And they brought it up there and they said, "Take it and go." I went to the elders and deacons of the church. They didn't want me to go. They told me no. And not only that, they were very hateful. I kept talking to John Paul, and in 1 week, I went from talking to like 20-some kids at a time through a phone to talking to kids and adults that just gathered in this little shack just to hear me talk through a phone. So I made up my mind after the elders and deacons said that not only would they not let me go, but they ain't supporting it whatsoever. After the kids in the church, which I had 50-some people, 50-some kids. I told John Paul, who I had only known a couple of weeks, I said, "Brother, I'm coming there." And immediately, I went and I got me a passport. I got me a visa. And in 3 months, I took off. Absolutely, Amy. That's my wife down there, by the way. 3 months, I took off and I went to India by myself. It doesn't spare us, Jason. I hope you've been watching the videos lately. I went to India by myself. Nobody with me. I left my wife and my kids at home. Amy said she'd handle it. The Trinity's a lie, bud. Council of Nicaea came up with that word, Trinity, you're supporting so much, to do away with the sonship of Yahusha. That way they can make the Pope and these pastors someone that you call Father. So let's just keep on going. So I got all my stuff together. For the first time in my life, I went somewhere and crazy. But let me backtrack just a little bit to tell you something that's on the back of all your minds right now. You just don't want to say it. Listen. 2 weeks before my flight. You know how the devil loves to like mess with you and try to make you scared and worried and fearful and say, am I gonna be safe? Am I going over there to die? What's gonna happen to me? Well, listen. 2 weeks before I was supposed to go, after talking to John Paul every single day, I go on his page and I backtrack a lot. I started looking back, looking back at some of his things he does over there and things that go on over there. 4 months before I met John Paul, he had posted a video up there of a street meeting that he had, in which one of the men that was with him in this ministry got beat in the back of the head with a big old pole, busted his head wide open, blood all over the place, all over his white outfit. He's laying there on the ground, still alive. And John Paul had made the video live, hoping that people would pray for this man. Please help this man, pray for this man. He was attacked during a revival meeting, all for saying that he loved the Son of God. And I looked at that video and my stomach dropped so much. I said, oh gosh. Oh no. What am I getting myself into? And I hid the phone from Amy at first. And I remember when I went in that bathroom, I had an anxiety attack. I started shaking and shaking and shaking and crying and shaking. I came back out of that bathroom and I went back into the living room and said, Amy, I have to show you something. And I sat down with her on the couch. And I showed her that video. And I told her in her face, I said, I'm scared. I don't know if I could do it. I went to bed that night with high hopes of calling John Paul and saying I'm not going to do it. But something came over me that night. And I woke up that morning and called John Paul and told him I couldn't wait to be there. Instead, I did the opposite. And I kept going forward. Well, I got on the flight. The flight was 9 hours. The flight was 9 hours to Frankfurt, Germany, with a 2-hour layover. And then I had to get on another back-to-back flight of another 9-hour flight from Frankfurt to Bangalore, India. And then I had to get a 3-hour flight from Bangalore, India, all the way up to Hyderabad, India. And on the way there, once I got out of Washington, D.C., it was crazy, scary mess going on the plane. The turbulence mess coming out of D.C. was nuts. And I ain't used to that stuff. And not to mention being kept in a container for 9 hours straight. And by the time I got to Germany and in Frankfurt, I was already like, man, this is intense. I ain't talked to my wife in like a whole night and day already. And it's crazy. There's people all up here with coughing and masks on. It was right in the middle of COVID. And so I went from Frankfurt to Bangalore, and that flight had nothing but Indian people on it. Okay? And the Most High put me beside an Indian man that was actually coming from America also, and that could speak wonderful English. And so I sat there and I talked to that man the whole flight. Talked about God, talked about my testimony, my life, talked about everything. Kept each other awake. We took a nap. We woke back up, encouraged each other with a meal, kept on flying. And then as I told him where I was going to be at, I told him I would be in Duque, Peru. And he looked at me and he said, brother, it is cooking there. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean it's cooking there? He said, brother, it is cooking there right now. It was the middle of March into April, which is their hottest time of the year. And now this whole time of fear of India, like I didn't even think about that. He says, brother, it is hot. It is cooking there right now. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. And I look at my phone, and that day it was already 114 degrees with 123 heat index. So it put on a whole nother wave of, oh crap, I'm gonna die. See, because where I went in southern India, the villages I went to, all 7 villages I went to by myself, no missionary team, no paperwork stuff, just me and a flight. 7 villages I ministered to, over 20,000 people in 29 days. Those villages had not had an American pastor set foot in their village since 1990. I think it was whenever that big old tsunami happened. When Billy Graham went over there overnight, just for an overnight, stayed there one day, just to hand out some clothes and Bibles and the name Jesus, okay, as Zionists do. Here's what it is, okay. I've been the first American-speaking English pastor to set foot in those 7 villages since Billy Graham in the 90s. And anyway, I get into Hyderabad, and when I got into Hyderabad, I get off the plane, and I'm already overwhelmed immediately. I get out of the plane, and I go walking through this big Hyderabad airport. It's so crazy over there, that place. If you think that Atlanta and in Atlanta, Georgia airport something crazy, you need to go over to Hyderabad. Well, I got out of the Hyderabad airport, and when I got out of the Hyderabad airport, I started looking for John Paul, and here comes this tiny little man. John Paul, he's only about 5'3", 5'4", about the same height as my wife, and I'm 6'7". This little man, about 5'3", come walking out with a sign that said, Brother Dustin, Brother Dusty. And I went up to that man like I knew him my whole life. And I hugged him so tight, and he hugged me so tight. We walk out the door on the way to the car, and I hug him again. He hugs me right back. And I get in this little tiny car with him. And let me tell you something. You guys don't know what traffic jams are. You don't know what traffic even is over here in organized America. Over there, there's no right or left lane. There's no ongoing or two-going traffic. Everybody just goes whatever direction they can. And it'll be a moped with 5 people on the back of that thing, swerving in and out, back and forth, up and down, all kinds of directions. And you know what you hear the whole time? Beep, 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 beep. And John Paul says it's their way of talking with their car. Anyway, we get to Hyderabad and all that's going on, and I have culture shock. Immediately, I start freaking out, and on top of it, I was so hot that I thought I was going to freaking die. Immediately. And I told John Paul. John Paul was like, brother? He said, brother, we can stay here in Hyderabad. We can stay at a hotel. He says, we can relax, let you breathe. He says, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And I said, John Paul, please get me out of this city. He said, oh, okay, brother, okay. So we get in his car, beep, 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 finally make it out of the city of Hyderabad in like an hour. And when we leave Hyderabad, it's like you go from New York to New Mexico. So we come out of Hyderabad into New York. Out of Hyderabad into the country area. And you guys want to talk about country shot? Let me tell you. You're like, where can I go that's safe? Where can I go that's making me feel comfortable? I'm not telling you to leave Babylon and go somewhere safe. I'm not telling you to go somewhere and make a bunch of money somewhere. I'm not telling you to set yourself up to be a big somebody somewhere. I'm telling you to do as the Bible says and go to all nations, spreading yourself out amongst the nations, fleeing the midst of Babylon and scattering like sheep amongst the flock. Safety is not included in there whatsoever. Comfort is not included in anywhere whatsoever. That's why Babylon is destroyed, is because of their comfort, ivory couches, and their lavished things, and the fact that we eat pig and flesh all the time. If you're looking to go somewhere safe, you might as well just bow your head to a guillotine right now. I'm not telling you to leave for your safety. And I'm not telling you to leave to be comfortable. I'm telling you to go to be a worker during the harvest. Yes, it's a scary, hard world out there. And those people haven't gotten the gospel for that very reason. Anyway, here's this part of the story. Let me keep going. It's just going to get intense. I left Hyderabad and we start driving down this long straight road. It takes an 8-hour drive to drive from Hyderabad all the way down to Dokapuru. Okay? This place I went to is South India. And if you know anything about India, okay, missionaries nowadays, which is why I was the only one to set foot there that's an English-speaking minister, and since Billy Graham in the 90s, they stay away from South India because it's 98 Hindu extremists. Meaning, even when I was applying for my visa, I had to tell the person the opposite of why I was really going there. I had to cover up my tattoos of scriptures on my wrist that I got when I was blind, okay? I had to do all those things because a Christian, especially a Christian pastor, is not welcomed by the government of India in southern India. 98% Hindu extremists. Do you know what that means? It means they're still doing human sacrifice there? Check. Witnessed crazy things. They're still cutting the heads off of bulls and goats and even all kinds of crazy things right in front of you to slaughter it, sling blood all over the place. Every corner that you walk on is a Hindu temple. And in those temples are some of the craziest things you ever see in your life. Statues that'll make you scared to death. Covered in blood. People with blood on their faces. People bowing down and worshiping anything they can get their hands on. Anyway, I start driving down to southern India with John Paul. Okay? Well, as soon as we leave Hyderabad, I didn't use the bathroom on the plane. And I got off at the airport, and my goal was to go to the bathroom in the airport, but my stomach was I was freaking out, okay? So when we leave Hyderabad, the area of the city, I looked at John Paul, and he looked at me, and he could tell that I was just uncomfortable. And I said, brother, I have to use the bathroom. Now listen to this for those that want comfort. I said, brother, you have to toilet? I said, yeah, brother, toilet, please. And he said, okay, toilet. And he pulls his little car over on the side of the road, opens his door, reaches in the glove box, hands me some paper, walks around to my side of the car, and says, toilet. And right there on the side of that road, I had to use the toilet. With cars passing by, this big old water buffalo standing behind me in the field looking at me funny. Toilet. First time I had to ever experience something like that. But I did it. Got back in the car. Scarred for life. John Paul had to go too. I started back driving. And at this point I was like, well, John Paul, I'm going to try and rest. I didn't sleep for that full 18-hour flight with the 2 hours in between and then the time at the airport and then the hour leaving. I didn't sleep. It was chaos. I was literally feeling nuts. It was bad. And so John Paul said, brother, you sleep. Do you know what to wake up to 30 minutes later? John Paul praying out loud pulled over on the side of the road, sitting right beside me in the car. Shocked, I sat up. Turns out, there was a huge wreck that happened right beside us, and the car went flipping over past us and just missed our car. And John Paul wanted to pull the car over to pray boldly out loud like I'd never heard anybody do before at this point, praising God and thanking him for delivering us from that mobile accident. And you know, that's the first time I'd ever heard in my life somebody just randomly start praying. Not to mention shouts of joy and things like that in a random situation. It's powerful and beautiful. So I didn't go back to sleep after that point. I kept on driving. I think we had about 6 more hours to go from there, and we ended up making it to this village. And the village I was at was like the Jungle Book, where they balance the vases on their head. They got the dots on their forehead. There's nothing but like leafy shacks everywhere, unless you can get concrete. And the only concrete they have is cheap block with whatever mix you can gather. Okay. I got into this village, and I went from being horrified to when we pulled through this village. We went, first of all, we had to pass all these temples. Every turn as you enter into the village, there's these crazy temples. And some people, when they look at you with their dot in their head and their little turbans on their heads and their skin just baked, and I'm not saying that any type, it just is what it is. It's enough to make your skin fall off your bones at first. The way they look at you like they want to kill you. The way they look at you like, what is this man doing here? The way they look at you with literally the worst look in their face that you could ever imagine. So I went from seeing all that to we take our turn, and we enter to his part of the village in Delta, Peru. And as soon as we make the turn, do you remember those 28 kids that I told you I'd been ministering to online? Well, we pulled around the corner, and there comes all those kids running and surrounding my car that we were in. I get out, they throw these flowers and things they had made for me out of decoration. They threw the flower little wreath thing around my neck, and they all hugged all over me, and they all just wanted to say, "Uncle, uncle, uncle's here, uncle, 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 uncle." Because I was their uncle, and John Paul is my brother. All I heard for 29 straight days was, "Uncle, come here. Uncle, pray with me. Uncle, please pray. Praise the Lord, Uncle. Praise the Lord, Uncle." I hear it every day in my head still. "Uncle, don't go, Uncle." I get out, and there's a big sign that they had made on the ground out of flowers and like stuff like that, whatever colors they could gather, that says, "Welcome, Uncle." I went from being terrified and scared to being so full of joy. Like that. Just had to make it there. First night came, and this is what the first night looked like. By 10 o'clock at night, they had already made me go through 3 different Bible studies with them the first day I got there. And then at nighttime, none of the kids wanted to go back to their moms and dads. They just wanted to sit there with me until they were forced to go. And see, in this village, those 29 kids, not all of them had a home to go to. All the boys, there's 9 of them. All those boys, They stayed there with me the whole time I was there. And they're still there right now. See, when their parents found out that they had turned to Christianity and they got baptized, their family rejected them and told John Paul to take them. So John Paul did. And those boys stay there all the time. Every night when I'd go to bed, I'd pray with every one of them, all 9 of those boys, every night. We'd sit there in that hallway together, and I call it men time, boy time. And we'd pray, as they lay on a hard concrete ground floor. See, but that first night I got there, about 11 o'clock at night, do you know how hot it was still? Probably not. It was still over 100 degrees. And when you get inside their little huts, it's just as hot in the huts as it is outside. Everybody went to sleep except for me. I was in shock. So I grabbed my little, it's more like a mat with sticks underneath it is what I slept on. It was like a cot, handmade cot, okay? Hold on one sec. It was like a handmade cot. Bro, Jason, please, man, just don't distract people and listen. Calling Muslims hypocrites and all of those things is actually the complete opposite of what this video is about. So I grabbed my cot and I grabbed my little mattress, the pad, and I drug it out of the hut and I brought it outside underneath the stars. A little bit of air I can feel blowing on me. And I slept outside in the middle of India where there's monkeys, there's big cobras, there's also big cat wildlife. We'll leave it at that. There's all kinds of crazy animals. I went and I laid my little mat out there in the middle of their yard. And in the matter of 10 minutes, I hear, and I look, and there's John Paul dragging his mat and his blankets and his pillow out there beside me. I said, brother, what are you doing? I said, I'm sleeping, John Paul. I'm trying to get to sleep. I'm hot. So John Paul lays his mat right up beside me. I tell people all the time, I don't think my wife even sleeps that close to me. We laid there underneath the stars. And John Paul falls asleep immediately. And let me tell you, he's a snorer. He falls asleep immediately. And I start missing my wife, and I start missing my kids. Just everything's hitting me first night. And as soon as I start falling asleep, John Paul's alarm clock on his phone goes off, which I still hear in my head all the time. Dun 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 dun, and then it starts over. And he'll let that thing go off for 10 minutes straight before he grabs that phone and cuts it off. Do you know why he sets an alarm every hour of the night from the time he falls asleep? Because this is what he did after 10 minutes of that alarm going off and me going crazy. He sits up in the bed, he gets off of the mat, and he starts praying. And I got right down beside him and prayed too. And then he goes right back to sleep. Immediately. And I was like, what is going on here? Why is it so different here? People in America don't do this. So I made it a pattern from that night on, man. I did. I made it a pattern. When John Paul prays, I pray. every hour. I wake up, I pray, go back to sleep. I wake up, I pray, go back to sleep. I wake up, I pray, I go back to sleep, and by then it's already morning. By the time that next alarm went off, it was a struggle. The first night was the worst night. I told my wife too the next day. I was like, it was hard. Miss Sandra, wait till the end of the video to ask questions, and if your question's not answered, then rewatch it, because I've already covered those things. I'm not saying that to be rude. But let me say this, that night passed by. And see over there, they still have school, okay? And we, our little hut we are in, is right beside the school where all those children go, mixed with the Hindu children. Keep that in mind. So what I did is those kids have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, the 9 boys in the hallway, they start praying loud and loud and loud and loud and loud. Loud and loud. Okay? And then there's this. You hear also, there's 3 different shacks in front and beside the school and beside us. You hear those people out loud, right there in our little corner of the village, praying at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the next thing you knew, 5:30 came, here comes all those kids jumping on me and my mat. Uncle, 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 pray before school, pray with me, pray with me, pray with me. And so I pray with them, and the next thing you know, John Paul's got me in the kitchen with Shanti, his wife, and we're trying our best to, we make them rice patties, and we make them just whatever we could get in the mornings, usually things like rice patties and eggs, stuff like that. And we'd make all the kids that were there, and even the old people that would come in, whoever would come, we'd serve. We'd make them breakfast by 7 o'clock. It'd be ready for them. And then before every meal, they'd make me pray with them over the food and all those things. They'd all eat, and they'd make me sit right in the middle of them and tell them stories. And then by 8 o'clock, I had to be off to school. Do you know what they all did? Not just the boys. The boys and the girls. They'd come up one at a time. Uncle, pray with me today. Uncle, pray with me today. Uncle, test today. Uncle, test today. Some of them have a hard time with bullies. Uncle, please pray for me. The first night I was there, I had to pray well over 150 times. It's like you go to India and you learn what praying without ceasing means, and yet in America they'll be like, oh yeah, pray without ceasing, as they post their little praying hands in a comment box and think they've done something. Are you really praying without ceasing? That's what I hate about America in general, as I was telling you at the beginning. They'll post a praying hand and be like, I did. I'll tell you this, if you ever tell John Paul to pray for you over something, he'll have a whole fasting team put together in the matter of 3 minutes, and have that whole team fasting all day long, hoping you'll post a reply at some point saying we're better, just for them to give thanks to God for another 3 or 4 more hours after your prayer's been answered. So while the kids would go to school, me and John Paul would start our mission. First day, we focused strictly on Doka, Peru. We set up a street meeting, and we had like 250 some people just pour into that one and show up randomly immediately at that meeting. And I preached for 3 hours straight. I got done preaching for 3 hours straight. And when I say preaching, see, people don't know what tongues are in the Bible. They think it's hibbity hobbity hoobity, but it's not. Your prayer language between God and your own time that it talks about, He knows your own language. That's where it was saying He even knows your moans and your groans. He knows those things. My prayer language with Him is when I separate myself in a room and I'm praying to Him. And that prayer, that speaking in tongues before other people, where it says only one person is allowed to speaking in tongues, while the rest remain quiet. It doesn't say a whole room of people speaking in tongues. That is not a spirit of God. It says the speaking of tongues is this. It has to be one person speaking with one interpreter present, meaning tongues. This is where you get the tongues of Babylon and the spreading of the tongues happen. This is what took place at Pentecost. You have a gathering of 7 different religions and 7 different regions of the earth gathered, all of them speaking different languages, okay? All of them. And so they were given the known languages of the land to speak to those individual groups with a language. It's not your Pentecostal hibbity hobbity hibbity hobbity. That's not speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues is this. When me and John Paul, it would be a hand and a foot. We send them out in twos. Be a hand and a foot. See, John Paul always knew what I was going to say before I'd even say it. Every time. I never had to pause for John Paul. I'd say a sentence and he already knew it was coming out. Speaking it right there beside me in their language, the known language. He'd be speaking in tongue to them, the same tongue that I'm giving him. Tongues. Tongues, the known languages of the land. That's what had to take place at Pentecost. It was the biggest gathering of all the nations in the world. What you have is a familiar spirit doing your hippity hoppity hoppity with 40 other people in a temple assembled by the hands of man. Slain in the spirit. Do you even know what that even truly means? So as I would speak for 3 hours at a time, John Paul would be right beside me, speaking the same things I was speaking in their known language, while all I had to do was speak English, and it'd be powerful. So I got done with our first street meeting, which was already set up by 11 o'clock in the morning, okay? By 2 o'clock, we were packing up the speakers, and we were packing up the microphones, and we were already making our way to the other corner of the village to set up our second street meeting of the day, where we had another 300 to 500 people gather the first day. Second meeting. Do you know who a good 250 of them were? Ones that followed us from one village, one part of the village, to the next part of the village, just to hear more. And you can't even sit in a 20-minute conversation in church without looking at your watch ready to go. You can't even sit in a comfortable little pew without thinking about Sports Center, or what you're going to cook for lunch, or what you're going to do with the kids for their soccer practice or baseball practice. In the meantime, those people went from hearing me preach and teach for 3 hours straight, which is why I do what I do still here. I've made it a pattern. They go from hearing me speak for 3 hours in one part of the village to next thing you know, we've got this whole herd of people, 200 and some people, following us from one part of the village just to another part of the village, just to set back up and explain. Let's see, I read that and said explain. One part of the village to the next part, just to hear 3 more hours of different sermon, different words. We got done with that one, and next thing you know, it's already afternoon, and me and John Paul hadn't ate all day. And yet we were full. We had a bread that most of the people of this world don't even know of. Man must not live on bread alone, but on every word that flows from the mouth of the Most High into your body. Everything that Spirit does around you. We didn't need to eat. We were content. We got done with our second street meeting, and I was on fire. Let me tell you this. I'll share this video for you guys, hopefully tonight or tomorrow. The second day, well, first I gotta finish the first full day. We went from our second street meeting, 6 hours I'd already preached, till we got back to our hut. Do you know that most of those people followed us back home? Do you know why? Because I didn't even know. Every night, this is why these kids were expecting it the first night. Every night, we do a Bible study. From 9 o'clock till 10:30. And the last 45 minutes of it is nothing but everybody that's gathered, all of them praying at the same time. By then, I had already preached and taught for like 9 hours that day. And do you know what your pastor on Sunday would have done? He would have collected, and I'm saying this as proof I was in this situation. He would have made, see, at Maple Grove, the little itty bitty church I was at, that pastor made $5,200 a month when I was youth pastor, and even youth pastoring, you get $2,500 a month. And he made that much money for preaching 20 minutes 3 times a month. And here we are, 9 hours deep, made a single dollar a dime, and yet did more kingdom building in one day than a pastor will do in a whole year for free. And it was incredible. Incredible. I loved it. So much, in fact, that by the time the day was over and we finished our Bible study and stuff, it was 11 o'clock, and you'd think I'd be tired. I got like 2 hours of sleep because of staying up with John Paul and the phone ringing every hour and being hot. Well, everybody's tired, ready to go to bed because they know got the next day to come. And here's me, wide awake. I remember I laid back out under the stars, and I slept outside almost the whole time I was there. I remember I laid back that night under the stars, and I looked up at God, and I said, "Thank you for using me today. Thank you for using me today. Thank you for showing me how to do this. Thank you for all of these people that listened. Thank you for waking me up. Thank you for opening my eyes. Thank you for this man, John Paul. Thank you for zealousness. Thank you for compassion. Thank you for giving me that voice I asked for, Father." All night long, I couldn't stop thanking him for everything. I loved it. And that was just day one. That repeated for 3 days straight, okay? First 3 days was Doka Peru. By the 4th day, me and John Paul had to go to another village. This is where Daddy lives. Daddy being John Paul's dad, and I call him Daddy because he's my dad too. We made it over to Daddy's village where we were going to minister the second service area. And on the way there, we got attacked by an extremist. Ran right into our car and ran us off the road. Chased us down to do so. And see, John Paul was driving. And I didn't get to sit in the front with him because we have these 3 kids that would go with us. Our 3 little hands is what I called them. One of them being his daughter, Sophia Grace. So my daughter Mia Grace and Sophia Grace have the same middle name. My little niece, she sat with me, and then I had the 2 boys. and we all cram in the back seat of that little car and go to village to village. Well, this time this man, drunk Hindu extremist man, ran into our car, ran us off the road, and got out and came up snatching the door handle, trying to snatch the door off the hinges. John Paul tells me to sit down and be with the children. And I saw this little man, John Paul, get out of this car with this crazy, crazy man. And he walks around to that side. And I've never in my life seen something like this. That man wanted to kill us. And do you know what John Paul sat there and did to him? Prayed for him. Preached to him. Ministered to him. As the guy was flipping out, John Paul said, "It's okay, I love you." He says, "No, don't do this, I love you." To the point that the man stopped. The man got back in his car. And the man left. While I was in the back seat with Sophia screaming and crying in my lap. And those two little boys scared to death right beside me. John Paul calmly gets back in the car. He says, "All is okay, brother." He says, "Let's go." And I said, "Okay, John Paul." And we left. It put such a braveness and boldness inside of me that day when we got to that next village, I don't think I've ever preached the way I preached that day. It was powerful. I shared mine and John Paul's story, what I saw, how I witnessed things take place. I used our motives and our things as a testimony of what took place and how it was used by God. I told him what I felt inside of me. And those people, you could just watch them and their lives and hearts set on fire just hearing those things. No, it's not, Chris. So here's this part. We did that minister team. We stayed in that village ministering for so long that day. We got back so late. And after that day, we had to go back to another side in another different part of that village. And this one is the video I want to share with you guys. John Paul told me where we were going the night before. He said, "Brother, we're going to this big temple and preaching on the front." And all I could think about is what I was seeing before I got there. I was like, man, I don't want you guys getting distracted. All I could think about is those sacrificial temples where I was watching blood get slung and things chopped off, and literally where things would get sacrificed and stuff like that. I was like, "We're going to go what?" And he says, "Yeah, we're going to go preach in front of this temple, and I'm going to share this video with you because it was incredible." We set our speakers up right in front of this Hindu extreme temple. I was kind of nervous. Not to mention, I'm like the only man there. I'm the only man there that's taller than 5'4", and I'm 6'7", so I stand out from a long ways away. Not to mention, I'm not dark skinned like that, so I stand out in that way. I also had really long hair at that point, which they don't even do that over there like that. I looked like a surfer boy from Cali. Preaching the gospel. So we got in front of this Hindu temple, and as soon as you get there, you can literally just see the evil around you. But when we were setting up, all these beautiful kids, They were the first ones to show up. They come in and they all just line up in this huge group. And I can't wait to share this video with you. I'll try to do it after this video. They line up in this huge group in front of us, and they start beating on their drums, and they start singing praises and things like that. Because usually that's how we get people to come in, is music. They'll start playing their drums, they'll sing and praise hymns and stuff like that. And next thing you know, these people would start pouring in. Well, this day in front of this temple, John Paul hands me my mic, he's got his mic, and we've got these speakers set up where they're aiming two different sides of the village. In the matter of like 10 minutes, we had every bit of about 600 to 700 people there. And as I was preaching and preaching, we preached on into the night. You'll see the video, it was nighttime. I'd watch people come out from this temple, come around the wall, and not only would they wipe the dots right off their forehead, but they would come in crying and crying and crying and sitting down and their hands up, praising. They wouldn't wait to repent. They would repent immediately. Those same people would follow us to the next meetings. The same ones taking part in sacrificial rituals and things like that day were turning to the Son of God right in front of me. The same ones looking at me like they want to kill me. The same ones that wanted to hear me talk. Powerful. So that got me going. I was like, this is incredible, John Paul. This is incredible. That day ended. 2 or 3 more days go by. Same street meetings every single day, all day long, every day, all day long. And then here comes another speed bump I had to cross. I went to bed this night with John Paul saying this right before bedtime again. Brother, tomorrow we go to leprosy colony. I said, what? I didn't even know. I didn't even know that leprosy was still even a thing in the world until I got to India. Didn't even know it. They call them the untouchables there. And what these people have to do in this village is, hey Chris, please don't keep distracting. I love that you're active and stuff, but you missed a whole lot of video when I told people, please don't be distracting other people in the comments. Instead, just listen. Okay, so here we go. Went to bed that night, all right? And I was like, what am I doing? What's gonna happen? This is crazy. In America, they're like, leprosy will literally cause you to like have this stuff. And then you're reading the Bible and you're like, man, they had to stay so far away from those people and do all these things when they get close to these people and everything. And I mean, I was kind of borderline freaking out again. And like I said, another speed bump. We woke up that morning and we woke up that morning and it was like I had a big old knot. Thanks, Chris, for at least being understanding. I appreciate it. I woke up that morning and I felt like I had a huge knot in my stomach. And John Paul said, brother, are you ready? Big day, big day, brother. He says, no space for fear, no space for worry, no space, brother, leave it no space. And I said, okay, John Paul. We get in the car, I have my 3 kids with me, and I'll show you pictures of me, John Paul, and those 3 kids in this untouchable village. We start driving, and it was about 45 minutes away. And the whole way there, you know, I'm like nervous. I was a little nervous, and I think we get about 15 minutes from there. He said, brother, we almost there. And I said, John Paul, I said, man, this I said, this is going to be really intense, man. I said, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. He said, brother, no space. And he opens the glove box. And he pulls out a bottle of hand sanitizer that was like this big. And he squirts 2 drops of the hand sanitizer in my hands and says, rub together, brother. And I put the hand sanitizer on my hand and rubbed it together. And we get there. And see, at this village, the reason why John Paul, and this is what encouraged me a little bit, John Paul said he had been going to this village every 2 months for 8 years straight. And the reason why he goes every 2 months is what me and him did. You guys don't understand how much money can go so far in over there, like how little bit of money can go so far. Look, $100, you can feed over 1,000 people easily for $100. And I mean, like, eating good. Me and John Paul were able to go and get these huge bags of rice and stuff. And this is what we would do is, used to, if people were dropping things off, they have to drop it about a half a mile in front of this village of leprosy colony, the Untouchables. They would drop it about a half a mile off, and they would have to send someone out to come get it and bring the food back. But John Paul would always come, and we'd always look at the entrance and gather the food that people would drop off, and we'd take it in. But John Paul, when we brought our food, and we got there, and I don't know if you've ever seen anybody with leprosy, or even if you knew leprosy was still a thing, but it is. They won't tell you that in America. We got there, and I got out of the car, and we went into this big hut thing. And see, they got paganism over there too. The temple building stuff. Okay. Well, we went into this temple in the leprosy colony, and that's where the meeting was. And this temple building was a Christian-based, you know, they believed in God. They believed in Esaya, is what they call them over there, which is a translation of Joshua, by the way. And we went to this building, and I saw my first person with leprosy. It was the main man that was up at the front, and his hands looked like this, like no fingertips or nothing like that, and all like, I wish I could. Okay. Oh man. So he had his hands were like this, and all here on every finger was black as tar from where his skin was just eating away his fingers. And not just that, parts of his arm, different parts of their bodies. Okay, there was another man who had it in his eyes. And I mean, he had to wear these glasses. You'll see him in the picture, and this lady too, where they have to wear these glasses where they, their eyes were eaten out with leprosy, where they had leprosy, it touched to another place, got leprosy, things like that. Just spread so bad, especially when they have no antibiotics or anything over there like that. And there's people with like one leg and one arm, and then they had pleurisy in their lungs. And leprosy and pleurisy mixed, which is both a lung-eating disease mixed with leprosy. Horrible, horrible stuff, okay? And so we're in this room full of it, just in a contained room full of those people with leprosy. And like I said, at first I was like, this is scary. But then this is what happened. I started preaching. John Paul interpreting, hands and foot, speaking in the tongues, spoken in a known language, and I was speaking right there beside me in my language, and it was all flowing beautifully. We got done preaching, and those people came up one at a time and just wanted me and John Paul to put oil on. The Bible speaks heavily about people anointing you with oil and laying your hands on them and praying for them. And certain things requiring fasting and praying. We don't heal them, and I'm saying this because there's people like on TV, they'll be like, oh, this man's a prophet of God and he's healing people. He didn't heal anyone. I didn't heal anyone. John Paul didn't heal anyone. What we did was we joined in a union, a hand and a foot, reaching out and touching, laying our hands on someone in the name of the Son of God, and asking the Father to do things through the Son and that Spirit that lives in us to this person. And we witnessed some incredible things. I watched this one lady there. This is the most mind-blowing thing. I'll show you this picture too. This one lady, she had the pleurisy in her lungs mixed with leprosy, and you could hear her literally gargling in her chest fluids. And so we laid our hands on her, and not only does this lady start speaking clearly afterwards, but it's all gone. No, nothing. completely gone. And every time it would happen, I would be in not shock, but like amazement at what God was doing. Because in America, they don't even think that stuff's real anymore. They don't even think miracles happen anymore. But I also witnessed what he had done for days and days and days and days and days and days before that. It was incredible. We left that village. Here I am still today with no leprosy, and I touched every person there that had leprosy. I shared a meal with every person there that had leprosy. And I don't have leprosy 3 years later. John Paul still goes back every 2 months. Which is why he's seeking help sometimes. Every bit of his funds go to these people. Not just the leprosy colony, but every one of these street meetings. He's always feeding people. Absolutely, Miss Kelly, your faith has healed you. Those people knew that they would be healed. They just heard a sermon about what the Father could do and what the Father did in my life and what he did in John Paul's life, and they built up faith. And their faith healed them. And 2 or 3 gathered in agreement with their faith, and it healed them. By this point, this is like week 2, I was so on fire that every time I called Amy, I couldn't contain anything. I was like, Amy, you've got to hear this. You would not believe what happened today. So it brings me back to this. I could go on and on for 29 days worth of stories, but I'm not. I'll let you fill in the gaps of what took place for the rest of the time I was there. It was incredible. But you need to hear this, especially the lady that asked the question about where can we go that's safe. You don't leave and flee Babylon from the midst of Babylon to save your life. You don't leave comfortable. You don't flee from comfortable Babylon to spare your life, to save your life. You go to be a hand and a foot and a worker during the harvest. You go to Africa to preach to the people that no one else will. You don't go there to be safe. You don't say, where can I go that's safe? You're already messed up from the beginning if that's what you're saying. If you're saying, hey, where can we go that's safe? I don't know. Probably nowhere. I'm not going somewhere because it's safe. I don't want to go to Mexico, India, and Africa because it's safe. I don't want to go to the safe places. I want to go to the places nobody else will go to. I want to go to the places where people need to hear the gospel. I want to go even if I have nothing. I want to be there with them. Because when I am weak, he is strong. And when I have little, he has much. And when I lack faith, he pours out generously that which I need. And sometimes it looks like a testing and a refining and a breaking and a hurting, and that's okay. I don't mind struggling at times, because in the struggles is when I've been closest to him. I don't mind sleeping on the ground in the middle of 120-degree heat. I don't mind going days without eating. Absolutely, Miss Sandy. If you're going to flee Babylon, don't let it be for yourself. If you're taking part with those that are leaving Babylon, don't do it for yourself. You're like, but I have this and that and this and that. Well, the rich man turned away grieved when he found out what he had to give up to follow Christ. That's what it says. The rich man turned away grieved when he looked around at all the things he had to give up to follow Yahushua. I can name 1,000 things that I didn't want to leave behind, and yet I left it behind. I've got a mama who loves me sitting back at home. I've lost 2 grandparents this month and haven't been able to be there. I've got a twin brother who I love, and I know he loves me too. I got an older brother who taught me so much of what I know that I'll probably never see again. According to the hospital and the VAs, I wasn't even supposed to be walking anymore after the military. Messed up both my feet, my knee, herniated a couple of discs in my back, cracked my skull, suffered from a TBI, and a bunch of other stuff with that. And also had extreme anxiety disorder. I had sleep insomnia. They diagnosed me with all kinds of different things. Told me I couldn't even walk anymore. I had one ankle completely replaced and the other one I had never even went back to get fixed. And yet here I am. If you're trying to save your life, you're going to lose it. But if you're trying to lay down your life for someone else, then you'll find it. Matthew 10:39 says this: He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. Matthew 24:9-10 says this: Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Luke 21:16-19 says this: And ye shall be betrayed by both parents, and brethren, and kinsfolks, and friends. And some of you they shall cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But hair, they cut out. In your patience possesses ye your soul. John 16:2 says this: They shall put you out of the synagogue, yea, the time cometh, that whosoever kills you will think that they are doing God's service. Revelation 2:10 says this. Listen to this one. Fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and that ye shall have tribulation for 10 days. But be faithful unto death, and then I will give you the crown of life. Nowhere in there does it say go and be safe. Nowhere in there does it say go and be comfortable. Nowhere in there does it say go to a safe place. It says the world's going to hate you. They're going to try and kill you, and they will kill you, and they'll put you in prison for 10 days. But be faithful unto death, and he will give you the crown of life. You're not saved from first death. You're saved from second death. When that trumpet blows, that last trumpet blows, all the dead come back to life, tares and wheat. First, the tares are snatched up from the ground, given life again, just to die second death. Those who remain alive after they're brought back to life, they don't have to go through second death. They will remain behind alive. That's the wheat, that after the tares are brought back to life and snatched off, then the wheat are brought back to life and remain, and are gathered with those that come down from third Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem, from the third heaven, down to earth. It's the last trumpet when the dead comes back to life. Immediately after the tribulation, the sun will stop putting off its light, the moon will stop giving off her light, and the stars will stop putting off their light. And that great trumpet will blow, and all the dead will come back to life, some to everlasting shame and contempt, and some to everlasting life. First the tares, then the wheat. But we're all appointed to die once. Second death has no sting. You're saved from the lake of fire. You're not saved from a death on this earth. And for you to ever elevate yourself that high and be like, nope, I'm going to get pre-tribbed out of here. How dare you? while the rest of the world is giving everything they can and dying overseas for their faith. You over here in America, Babylon, are like, please just save me from the tribulation. Do you wonder why the harvest of the tribulation is plentiful, but the workers are few, and why Babylon has to be destroyed first? And why he says, I will give myself over to a people who did not know me. I'll be glad to be given over to those people that did not know him. Shame on you. I want to be the last voice crying out in the wilderness of this earth, begging people to repent and turn to God. That's what I want. Whether it's my head under a chopping block, my body dipped in acid, my body drugged through the streets of Jerusalem, hooked up to a horse, a sword impaling my chest, stuffed in a tree like Isaiah and sawed in half, hung on a board, upside down, the way everybody else had to die before you. And yet you want to take this physical body and somehow think this physical body gets taken up to the heavens. Some of you will not taste death until the coming of the Son of Man. Meaning you'll still taste it. You won't have anything to do with second death. Stop trying to save your life and look for safe places. And look for somewhere to share the gospel. My time in America preaching to you guys is so close to being done. Winter is coming. And I've given everything I can to this place. But I also know what the word says. Pray that your flight not be on the Sabbath nor in the winter, because in those days a flight is an exile, a leaving. Because in those days a tribulation is going to come over the land that has not existed since the beginning of the world, in the beginning of that great nation. It's coming. Do you want to be somebody working the harvest? Or do you just want to lay down and get chopped up just for no reason? Come out of her. Go be a light scattered amongst the nations. Go reach the unreachable. Go teach the unteachable. Revelation 12:11 says that they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they loved their lives unto the death. They loved not their lives unto the death. See, so many of you guys love your life so much you're not willing to lay it down. But if you're claiming to be overcome things by the blood of the Lamb, then you have a category to fill. It says, these people. It says, for they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. So no, I don't know where a safe place to go is in the world. Anywhere that's safe, somewhere that you can be safe. I don't know those places. But I know a lot of places you can go minister to. If you're looking for a safe place, you're on the wrong page. Just keep listening to Trump. He'll tell you all the safe things you want to hear in peace. But we know when there's talks of peace, then comes sudden destruction. Mystery Babylon the Great up in smoke and ash within only an hour. Let me tell you this, Jeremiah 29:7. And seek the peace of the city, whither I have caused you to be carried away captive. And pray unto Yahuwah for it, for in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. For those that want to be raptured away, taken away, this last verse is for you. Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, nope, John 17:15-18. I pray not that thou shalt takest them out of the world, but that thou shalt keepeth them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. So sanctify them in thy truth, and thy word is truth. As thou hast sent me into the world, even so I sent them into the world. You want to give up on all those people that haven't had the gospel given to them yet? I don't. Do you want to be spared so they'll die? Not me. You want to be taken away and saved and look for a safe place? There's a lot of people there that hadn't even gotten the gospel, much less a safe place. Wake up. Be a hand and a foot, not a butt in a chair. I hope this has encouraged you today to be brave, to be bold, to be zealous, to speak truth, to reach out, and to most importantly love like you want to be loved. Hope you guys got something out of this today. It's been a crazy couple of days here, but I'm glad I did this with you guys tonight. I love you all. And have a good night and or day wherever you are in the world today. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye from beyond the veil.